Good evening. At this time, we'll call to order the meeting of the October 13th Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission meeting to order. If y'all will stand with us too, I'd like to introduce a new county commissioner from District 8 and a former planning commissioner, Pettis Reed. He'll lead us in our prayer and our pledge. Commissioner Reed.
Shall we pray? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day that you've given us and this opportunity to gather and to go over the business of this county. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over this county, that you be with these individuals as they see the things that concern those who are in this county and look at their responsibilities, and that you guide them. Father, we ask that you be with us tonight as we face a possible storm, that you watch over the citizens of this county and you give us the direction that we should go. Thank you so much for the blessings that we have, but may we always remember that the blessings that we do have come from you. Watch over us, protect us, and guide us. We offer this prayer in our Son's holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pettis. Call the roll, please, Gail.
Rhonda Allen. Jim Averwater. Veronica Buchanan. Will Jordan. Mike Cush. Craig Lynch. Chip Pinion. Charlotte P. Steve Sandlin. Mike Vaught. Jeff Phillips.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Gail. At this time, we need to approve our September 22nd meeting minutes, and I'll call on our Vice Chair, Craig Lynch. Craig? Thank you. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. I'd like to introduce a contingent of Leadership Rutherford students, I guess. Thank you for your attendance. We'll try to keep you well informed of the business of the county tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce our new county engineer, Mike Hughes. Today's his first day on the job, and I'm also Mike's county commissioner. He lives in the 17th district, and it's a pleasure for him to be sitting up here beside me. And Mike, would you take a few minutes and inform us about yourself?
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'm Mike Hughes. Worked as a design engineer for a local engineering company, SEC, here for almost 18 years, working throughout the state at various municipalities and governments. I've been a county resident for almost 30 years, actually 30 years this year, and married a hometown girl. All my children have been born here, going to be raised here, so this is home for me. When this opportunity came up, I jumped at it, and I'm looking forward to a long and fortuitous career with the county.
Thank you, Mike. We're glad you're here and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Item 5, withdrawn or deferred, Doug?
No, sir, nothing withdrawn or deferred.
Item 6, submitted for final plat approval. Item 6A, Rock Vegas minor final plat. The item number is 14-2047, 3 lots on 21.04 acres, zoned RL, located along Mount Pleasant Road. Chris London is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you stated, this property is located along Mount Pleasant Road. The plat before you was actually submitted a few months back. We did our comments on it. The only reason it is coming before you today is because it's 3 lots, and I'm only able to administratively approve anything less than 3, 2 or 1 lots. The comments have been addressed. Really, this is the only thing that's left outstanding is Planning Commission approval. It meets our regulations, and with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Any opposition? That motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, we have 3 rezoning requests that are scheduled for public hearings. Item 7A, James A. Sweat. The item number is 14-A010. Location is Forest Lane. Commissioner is Sean Kaplan. The size of the site is approximately .81 acres. The tax map is 49N, Group F, Parcel 5.03. Existing zoning is RM. Proposed zoning is commercial services. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you stated, this property is located along Forest Lane, the east side, I guess kind of southeast when you look at how it, when north is straight up. The applicant currently owns a lawn care irrigation business immediately adjacent to the property. That would be right here, right here along Forest Lane. After speaking with the applicant, his desire is to purchase this property for use for possible expansion in the future. He doesn't have any immediate plans to do anything. He did include kind of a conceptual drawing in your agenda materials. If this is approved and whenever he decides to move forward with that, he would have to come back through for Planning Commission approval. The previous zoning resolution and map actually showed this entire area here zoned for commercial purposes. Now, these are predominantly residential uses through here. There's an existing religious facility right here. When we rezoned the county back in 2013, what we did was zone the existing commercial uses as commercial services, which pretty much fits what's out there. There's a BP here on the corner, then the applicant's business here. Again, this being the vacant tract, but all this other was residential and then the church. Rather than leave all of that as commercially zoned, we just zoned the residential units and the church as residential, which was more appropriate for the area. So the applicant's simply asking for this to be commercial services, which is the same, as the zoning immediately adjacent to it. Staff did have a couple of phone calls about this particular application. Really, they were informational in nature. When I told them what was proposed for the property, nobody expressed any real concerns about it. So with that, let me just give you this is just the aerial photo of that same property. Just to give you an idea, this is looking down Forest Lane, looking across the street. This would be looking back toward the west here. That'd be Old Nashville Highway in the background there. This is the existing building on the property that the applicant currently has. This is the subject property here, straight back, and then that's immediately adjacent to the property. Of course, if this is rezoned, he would have to do screening and everything along this property line right through here. But again, if he's not using it for anything right now, if he doesn't have any plans for it, it can stay in its current condition. The applicant is present, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Questions for staff? Ready for our public hearing? At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing on item number 14-A010. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed or open for business.
Doug, have you explained to the applicant what our definition of a buffer might be in the future for down that property line?
We haven't had any just in-depth discussions as to what would have to happen here, but it would have to meet our criteria for what's in the zoning ordinance for buffering on that side. They could do a fence, a privacy fence, and then that could reduce their plantings here, but it'd be a type 2 buffer in this area, so not the thickest, but not the thinnest either, so it'd be a little more.
I would go ahead and make a motion for approval based on staff comments, and if I understand right, your main comment is the fact that it will need a buffer.
Yeah, I mean, it'll need site plan,
development,
right.
yeah.
Yes, sir, it'll need site plan. Whenever he decides to move forward, it'll need site plan approval from the Planning Commission. Yes, sir.
So motion to approve based on staff comments.
Motion to approve and a second. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Any opposition? That motion carries. Thank you. Item 7B, Dale Taylor, the item number is 14-A011, location 13142 Highway 99. Commissioner is Pettis Reed. Size of the lot is 1.42 acres, tax map 145, parcel 24.01. Existing zoning is RM, proposed zoning is commercial services. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate that. This property is located along the north side of Highway 99. This is a map of the area right here. This application comes as a result of zoning enforcement action on the property. Essentially, according to the information submitted by the applicant, the name of the business is Taylor's Colors. It's a small family-owned and operated business that specializes in paint and light body repair. The work is completed in an existing building, which I believe is this one right here on the aerial photography. The applicants bought this property back in 2010 and have operated the business since March of 2013. A complaint was recently made to the county zoning enforcement office in August of this year. The applicants had placed a portable sign on the property, which staff feels is probably what precipitated the complaint in the first place. The applicants called staff, and we met soon afterward, and we asked, when we sat and talked, we asked them about the possibility of maybe scaling back what they were doing. If it was just the paint on the property, we may have been able to approve this as a major home-based business through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or at least brought it through that approval process. He does do some light body work there, so because of that, that really kicks it out of what is allowed for a major home-based business. The regulations are pretty clear that those type of businesses are not allowed as home-based businesses to begin with. So his last option really would be either, at least one or two options, would be just to discontinue the business at the property or to rezone the property. So the applicant has chosen to rezone the property, at least to attempt to do that. Now, staff hasn't really received any phone calls about this that I'm aware of. I know I haven't spoke to anybody personally. My viewpoint on it, I can't say I have a strong feeling one way or the other. I'm fairly neutral about it, as the staff comments point out. I wish it could be done more as a home-based business. I think it'd be more appropriate that way, but at the same time, this is along a rural scenic highway based on the comprehensive plan, which does recommend mixed uses. So in that sense, I think it does meet the intent of the comprehensive plan. So with that, the applicants are present, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, I do. This is looking down Highway 90. This would be looking toward Eagleville, going that way. This would be across the street. You can see a residence in the back there. This would be looking back up, going toward Murfreesboro. There's the sign right there that we talked about. This is where the business is, in this building right here. I mean, the property is well kept. Oops, sorry, wrong way. And that's the existing house. My understanding is they still plan on living in the unit. And again, looking back down 99.
Doug, in a situation in the painting, I mean, you've got, I mean, is there a paint booth there? Is it meet the requirements of a paint booth for
Yeah, well,
vehicles?
I haven't been in the building. The applicant is present, could probably speak more toward
Okay.
that process. Now, as far as whatever activities he does on site, if it is approved, of course, he'll have to meet whatever state and federal guidelines that are there for that type of business. But the zoning ordinance itself doesn't really speak to that in specific.
Is that something codes would have to follow up on to make sure there's no paint fume escape, it's properly
They
captured
could.
in a booth, things like
There's
that?
actually, under the zoning ordinance, there are performance standards that we adopted when we adopted the new code that deal with noise and odor and everything. We've never received any complaints about that. He's been in business, I think, since March of 2013. We have not received any complaints about that. But if there were some complaints, then yes, that is something that our zoning enforcement officers could check out.
Let's say business gets really good and he wants to double that size of that building and put a metal building up. What would he have to come back?
Yes, sir. He
before-
wouldn't have to come back for zoning necessarily. Now, what he will have to do as part of putting the site into compliance, if he zones it commercial, he's going to have to do a little bit of screening and buffering and bringing the site up to commercial compliance. Now, if he wants to build a larger building, again, that'd be a site plan. Now, something like that may be, depending on the size of what he builds, may be small enough we could do it administratively. If it hit a certain threshold, 3,000 square feet, he'd have to bring it back to the Planning Commission.
But your desire, if the world was perfect, you would like this to be a home-based business.
Correct.
So any expansion really is pushing the limit of what we're comfortable with in that.
I'd say that's a fair statement. I mean, he's got a little bit of over an acre of land here. I mean, it's a residential unit. I mean, he only has so much room here to expand, plus, he's got to worry about his septic tank and everything. And I hope business does go well for him, I really do. But if it gets to the point where it's going really, really well, they may want to look at possibly relocating in a commercial area. But, I mean, for what he's doing right now, like I said, I think what really caused the complaint was the sign. So it wasn't it wasn't the activity. That didn't seem to be what precipitated it.
Last question. Let's say we approved it tonight. If he came back in a few years and wanted to expand the size of the shop, could we deny that request at that time because it's not fitting that home business category? Or if we okay it tonight as a commercial, then we've let the genie out of the bag?
Well, if you rezone it, then, I mean, he would have to come back with site plans, but you'd be acting more as an administrative body at that point, whether or not it met the regulations. Now, if you do rezone it, he will have to look out for things like, maximum lot coverage and different things like that. And on an acre of land, he's only going to have so much to work with. So I don't think you're going to see like a 50,000 square foot building on the lot or anything. But if you do rezone it, it's not a situation where you could make him come back for another rezoning or something like that. You couldn't do that.
I guess a genie comes out of a bottle, a cat comes out of the bag. That's right. Okay.
Doug, I think, I'm fine with the way that he's operating now, but I'm concerned about 10, 15, 20 years from now, and he's got the tow hole there, and the area around him develops, and he has homes close by, and he's expanded the business, and there's no landscape buffer, there's no real parking, hard surface parking, there's no stormwater detention, all of the things that we require another business to do, he's gotten around. So at what point, can he come in and do 2,999 square foot buildings and do 3 of those, and he's skipped all of the things that are required for good neighborhoods?
Well, no, I don't think so. If he were to do some sort of an expansion, he's going to have to do a site plan regardless. Now, the 3,000 square foot, all that does is trigger whether or not planning commission action is required. That he'll still have to meet whatever regulations are in place. It's just under 3,000 square feet, we can look at it as staff administratively. Over 3,000 square feet would have to come back here, but it's going to have the same information on it as it would have had we just been the ones looking at it. So he won't be getting around anything if he gets rezoned. He'll still have to meet whatever conditions and regulations are in the zoning ordinance whenever he chooses to expand, if he desires to. So, yeah, it's not a situation of him getting around anything. It's just like, again, a 3,000 square foot just triggers when it has to come before this board for approval versus when and staff can approve it administratively.
Well, if he came back for 1,000 square foot expansion to this operation, he would still have to be, then at that point he would be subject to the buffering, the detention ponds, the correct parking and signage and all.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it could be a 250, 500 square foot. Quite frankly, if he zones it commercial, he probably needs to go in here and start doing some of that right now. Quite frankly, as far as bringing the site. Now, we'll work with him, of course, because this is his home. I think the applicant does he's getting ready to come up to speak, I think. But, there are certain things he will have to do, but again, we'll work with him on that. But it's not a situation where, if he just does small expansions here and there, then he gets by without having to do any improvements at all. That's not the case at all.
So at this point, no improvements are needed, but if he pulls a building permit, then he has to start bringing it up to standards. Is that my...
Well, I honestly, if he's going to zone the property commercial, I would like to see the starting of some buffering or something like that, and maybe a designated parking area. I think he does show some parking in the front. Again, we'll work with him on that. I'm not going to sit here and say that he just has to do absolutely nothing on the property, but at the same time, we'll work with him as far as bringing it to conformance with the ordinance.
Questions? Ready for a public hearing? At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on item number 14-A011. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward.
I'm Dale Taylor. My address is 13142 Highway 99. I'm the one that is the owner of the property, and I just wanted to come up here, and any questions that y'all have, I've been back there listening. I can answer any of them, and I'm more than welcome to answer any of them, because this is something I've been dreaming of doing and trying to run a business as debt-free as possible so I can make it survive and live. And I've been a painter, a head painter at many major body shops. I've been painting since I've been 16 years old, and I'm 37. I just got trained with the EPA in the 6H rule, all the standards they require. I'm in all the OSHA training. I've had all that. I've been in the ERS training, safety standards, protocols, anything. I've been a part of it in all the big body shops that I've worked at, and I'm certified to spray. And because I am in the country and because I want to be for the environment, I'm spraying an automotive latex-based paint that PPG makes. It is non-flammable, and it's a whole lot better for me and for the environment. And my family has owned the property, as far as I know, since 1892. My children are the 7th generation that has lived at this house. And truthfully, I don't want to get it zoned commercial, but this is my livelihood, and this is what I do, so this is what I've got to do. So if any one of y'all have any questions, be free to ask me.
First, I want to commend you on, business is tough. And so, doing it at home is and I was getting ready to tell Doug just a second ago, what I confused myself in with this application is with stuff that we did way back there and in subdivisions too, which this is not yet, or a part of, is conditional use permit. And I've got to get myself out of that mode and look at what you're applying for right here. And what I told those applicants back then is, once you get your business established and it's going well, you've got to understand that this is a residential area and this is where people live and you live, and you've got to find a commercial spot, to move that business. And hopefully it does grow so big that, man, I don't want to have this in my backyard. I've got to go into town or Eagleville or, and find me a spot and a commercial spot and do it right, But common sense gets all out of the equation whenever, things happen. So my thing to you is I guess it was the signage that brought it out, probably from somebody driving down the road or something. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you need to comply just like everybody else, and I think you understand that. But what's I'm interested, and this is not part of it, but it is to me. You were talking about the safety part of it, and the paint booth, the collection system, the mixing booth part, and the safety part of that, and what are you?
Well,
does that meet all the requirements of, you were talking about the
building I have right now? It does, because the building is only a 24 by 30. So I had to get with the spray booth. I call him the spray booth guy. He's been at every shop I've ever worked at. He does all the maintenance on the booths and everything. We made a booth out of hardy board, which is considered concrete. It's a flame resistant material. And it's pretty much a cross-flow booth. It pulls in. I have what's called a spray curtain. It shuts half the shop off, and it's all fire retardant. It apparently will not catch on fire. It's OSHA approved. It's got a suck box with all the filters. It's the same style filters that any of the big body shops use, because I don't want to just put it out in the environment. because, I mean, my kids got to live here too, and so do I. And I know, you know, it is a pollutant. Big body shops and everything, it puts stuff in the atmosphere, and that's why I went and wanted to get, you know, compliant with the 6H rule is what it is with the EPA, learning about, you know, everything, which I've been painting a long time, but I want to be compliant every way possible. And I have a fire suppressant system, and I've got fire extinguishers everywhere, and that's why I went with the water, the latex, because that was the most volatile part of it is base. It's the color, because there's so much thinner in it. This has nothing of that. It's reduced with pretty much distilled water.
Well, I see you specialize in motorcycles and hot rods and stuff like that, muscle cars. So it is a full car coming in there at different points in time.
But the most I've ever done is 3 cars in 1 week, you know, about 5 to 7 days. And it's just the way they all got scheduled in. I do all the repair work for Sloan's. I do all the repair work for Cool Springs Power Sports. You know, whenever they ever have a wreck or damage, the bike's damaged, I go pick the parts up, I bring them out there, I repair them, I take them back to Sloan's, you know, or Cool Springs. I hardly ever have a motorcycle out there. Sometimes I do, but, you know, I enjoy hot rods. My dad.
Whatever, you know, that you're
Yes,
having to
yeah.
do, yeah. So where do you see yourself in 5 years then? I mean,
With it,
are you building a bigger building, or you know, what do
I
you,
need to expand because I do want to physically buy a spray booth, and my shop can't hold it.
right,
And the plans that I have that I put on the proposal was building a 26 by 30 and attaching it to it. And then with eventually, the shop is a 24 by 30. I wanted to come off the back of it and build a 30 by 40 or 30 by 60. And that's where the booth would be. That's where, if I had a frame rack, I could get that. But with it continues to get bigger, my family owns the 6 acres directly in front of me. And, you know, Murfreesboro is coming our way. I'm hoping eventually the septic system will come our way. And that's where I really would like to build a professional-looking shop.
well, that's not a
Eventually.
question to trap you or anything. That's a
I know.
question to help you to keep from coming here and
Well, I
jumping
don't-
through
I
hoops
don't
and
wanna-
stuff. We want
Yes.
to try to do something that's going to help you in the future. And then, you know, if it gets bigger, I mean, Doug, on that statement, what's the, you know, he kind of asked about the building a while ago, you know, what this going to suffice for. I mean, of course, we need sizes and all that sort of stuff
Right.
of buildings or whatever, but
I mean, if he's going to stay on his existing property, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Now, he said that, you know, his parents own property right next to him. If he wanted to expand into that, then he'd have to come back through
Right.
and rezone that property.
Right,
And,
right.
but, you know, that'd be the same process he's going through right now. But as far as the expanding on his own property, it would be a matter of getting, again, the site plan together, and depending on the size of the building, determine whether or not it would come here to the planning commission during your day meeting, or if we could just handle it as staff. So,
I wanted to also say the buffering, I really don't have any neighbors. My family owns the land to the Eagleville side of me, and we own the land in front, and our friends are building a house. But all the land around us, all the trees, is 225 acres that my family donated to MTSU. So, and nothing, it's a wetland, and nothing can ever be built on it. It's all in the contract where it's got to stay a wetland. So that's a pretty good sized buffer. And I am a part of the Eagleville community. I graduated from Eagleville, my family, my grandfather, everybody. And that's really why I want to keep my shop in Eagleville. I've had major paint companies tell me, no, you need to go to Murfreesboro, you need to go to Franklin. That's not what I want. I don't want a big body shop. I've worked in them. I want it to be family. I want my wife, you know, to be my secretary and help me with my taxes and stuff. All the computer side that I can't really do because I work on cars. And, you know, hopefully my children will be involved in it. You know, that's what I want. I don't want nothing big. I want to keep it family. I want to be able to, you know, pay our bills and live there and enjoy it. And I don't, you know, you can't never say, because my aunt and uncle, we bought the house from them. They lived there 33 years. But, you know, I couldn't see the house going anywhere else but staying in the family. Because my parents' house, which is next door, my grandfather, they built it in 1921, and my parents still live there. So I'm pretty much in the Eagleville heritage. I love Eagleville, so I don't want to leave it. And I enjoy being in Rutherford County, too, so.
Mr. Mr. Taylor. The only few comments I have really concern potential traffic on site, but do you really anticipate much
No.
heavy truck traffic or anything like that?
No, because I try to tell people, please call me, give me heads up, and I try to schedule even my estimates, where not everybody's coming in and stuff. And as of right now, most of the estimates I do, the people pull up, I take pictures, I talk to the customer, I email them the estimate, so they don't even have to stay there. I just think that's convenient, and, and I don't see there being a lot of traffic, because I'm not a big body shop, so.
So, I mean, I guess at the most, I would envision, maybe a wrecker or two during the course of the day.
I haven't had a wrecker yet.
No? Okay.
No, I
So
haven't had any wreckers yet.
They're bringing bikes in on the back of pickups?
No,
or-
because it's always through the bike shops.
Okay.
It's always through a motorcycle shop. They call me. They're the ones that claim it. And I just go pick the parts up. I'm pretty much a subcontractor for them. Every once in a while, they'll refer a customer to me and stuff. That's not a wreck, but they want their bike painted or something. And I still tell them, take it to Sloan's, take it to Cool Springs or wherever, and have it dismantled. Have it all R&I'd. I like getting the parts and painting them and taking them back.
Okay, so you're not necessarily doing body work on bikes or,
Well, body work is fixing dents. If something's dented, something's messed up, that's what's considered body work. Because I know I talked to Doug about, the paint side of it and the body side of it. Well, you can't have one without the other. You really can't. Unless I'm a custom shop that does just only airbrush work, murals and stuff, they don't do any body work. They just kind of sand it and put the paintings on there, the artistic side of it. But I'm not that smart, so.
so there's really no, I'm assuming, tell me, and assuming is a dangerous thing. Noise would be minimal, even on the body shop
Oh,
side.
yeah. Yeah.
Traffic, you already said, would be minimal. Nothing really heavy tractor trailer. At best,
No,
at
no.
best, it's a wrecker.
No.
Bringing in a hot
No.
rod, right?
There's more traffic when Eagleville School gets out.
Right,
Coming
okay.
back to Murfreesboro than there is coming into my place.
And you obviously know that you would have to stay in compliance in
Yes.
terms of paint disposal and
Yes.
fumes.
I am willing to be.
Particularly since you're that close to a wetland,
Oh, yes.
that's another red
And that,
flag.
and that makes it that much more where I
Right.
want to do it. I want to be compliant because I don't want to pay any fines.
So it is, okay. You understand, you
Yes.
understand that you would have to get into compliance?
Yes, I do. Yes. Thank you.
Taylor's somebody that is a fellow Eaglevillian, and I travel by your shop daily, and I've never noticed any commercial activity there until, of course, the sign went up. So in my mind, that says you've been doing a good job
Yes.
of keeping things together. My concern will be for the future 5-10 years down the road. If this business expands, I'm sure your neighbors don't want us. It's a very scenic and pretty area that you
Yes.
have there, and it's a very nice house that you have out front. If the yard fills up with wrecked cars,
I don't really want that.
a lot of activity, and the parking lot looks bad, and you've just got body parts piling up
Oh,
around
yeah.
the building. It's not going to fit into the neighborhood.
I fully understand that.
My concern, and I'm hoping there's something that you can say to address that and help me with my level of comfort there.
Well, that was my new neighbor across the street from us. That's what the first thing he asked me, will it look like a junkyard? And I said, no, it won't. You can keep the area clean. A lot of body shops, the production body shops, this is an example, one of the production body shops that I worked at, me and a prepper, which a helper, we turned 200 hours a week in a 40-hour week. The body shop turned 400 hours a week, a total of 600 hours a week. That's why it's a mess. Me, no. I'm nowhere near that. Some weeks I don't even really hardly have any work. But, I have property behind all this, behind the shop and everything. And I want, with it gets to where wreckers are coming in and bringing me wrecked cars, I want to put a privacy fence up because it's my home. I don't want it to look like a junkyard. I don't want it to, I want it to stay clean. I want it to be presentable. The cleaner I can keep it, the more respect I get from Eagleville and the community and everything else. You know, I want it to be clean, and, you know, I don't want it to be a mess. I really don't. You know, I've tried my hardest so far. You know, every day I'm out there picking stuff up, picking limbs up, because we have trees that are over 100 years old, and trying to keep it clean. And that's the last thing that I want. You know, but if it ever comes to that, that's what I want to do. I want to put a privacy fence up, have them behind the shop. I don't want nothing sitting outside, nothing sitting in the front. You know, I want it to be very nice. I try to tell people, you know, it's like in any profession. You have people come to you, how cheap can you do it? And I'm like, well, I try to be fair and honest on everything I do. And, you know, I have an estimating program. I know what it takes to do the stuff. And I'm like, my standards are so much higher than a lot of other shops, and I'm not willing to cut my standards down. You know, I try to do very high quality work because it's my name and my reputation. And it's the same way with the business, trying to keep it clean. I want it to be nice. I want it to be presentable. You know, if you have a mess and you got cars everywhere, you know, I've seen shops like that. I've seen mechanic shops like that. It's a mess, and I don't really, truthfully, I don't want to take my car there because it's a mess. But
Along those lines, Mr. Edgewater, if I could just interject, in the commercial services zone, exterior storage is only allowed behind the building anyway, and it has to be screened. So he would have to do that. If we saw that becoming a problem, we would require him to do that anyway.
If this is approved, you know you're going to have to come in compliance with the portable sign thing.
yes,
It's going to have to,
Yes.
what do you plan on doing there?
whenever it gets approved, whatever I have to do with the sign, that's what I'll do.
Okay.
So,
At that point, what he'll have, if it gets rezoned, he'll have the ability for permanent signage at that point, which would be something other than just the portable sign. We have regulations governing that. He'd be okay.
thank you.
Taylor.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Had us read the commissioner of District 8 out the way, and the first time I've ever been on this side speaking this manner. But I've had the opportunity to visit his shop out there, Mr. Taylor's, and in fact, I remember the night that he put up his sign for the very first time, and his lights flashing as I went by. And in fact, it caught my attention because I thought it looked pretty neat. He had different color lights in it, and he does keep the home very, very neat the way it is, and I was impressed with it. And then when I noticed that the sign changed, that the lights were no longer flashing and whatever, and then I talked to Mr. Taylor, and he told me that he had had some calls and things like that. I saw that. But I have visited the shop. I have not had any calls as a commissioner, and if any of you have ever been in this position, you know you get calls right away when something's not right or wrong. I have not had any calls as far as his shop is concerned. He is trying to do something as a family business. And he's trying to do it in a manner that, you know, we keep hearing buy local. He's trying to do something for local as far as Eagleville is concerned out there. And he's part of a family situation. If you've ever heard the Rowland name or the Puckett name out there in that community, that's what we're talking about. And if you look up here in the lower corner here, back down that way is what is known as Puckett Store to anybody who lives out that way. Now you're talking about a business that was there not at the turn of this century, but the previous century. That was a major business that was known to everybody within probably 100 miles that did their shopping. So this is not the first time a business has been in that area as such. They sold everything from T-model Fords to baseball caps. But I think that what he's trying to do there, he'll stand by what he says and what he's trying to do there. I've already heard individuals who have told me this, and as his commissioner in that area, I think it's something we're seeing as a way for somebody that's trying to do their own business out that way and try to make a plus for the Eagleville community.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against this rezoning request? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Planning Commissioners,
I make a motion that we approve with conditions.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Other discussion?
I'll say one thing, on the face of this, I would be inclined to not approve it, given Mr. Taylor's strong ties and family history, and the fact that it will have a natural buffer with the wetlands around it. I think we ought to approve it, although, like I said, on the face of it, I would be inclined to vote against it. I'm a little like Steve. I'm still trying to wrap your arms around these permanent rezonings in a residential area. But I think, given the fact that he lives there, I think it'll be a good thing.
Comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7C, Chris Hillis. The item number is 14-A012. Location is 8447 Shelbyville Pike. County Commissioner is Joe Frank Jernigan. The size of the site is 10.45 acres, tax map 179, parcel 22.00. The existing zoning is RL. The proposed zoning is light industrial. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This final rezoning we have for you tonight is located along Shelbyville Pike. Planning Commissioners may recognize this property. This actually came before you at the September 22nd meeting for a re-subdivision of the land. The applicant's looking to rezone a portion of this property, and if you look on the map on the screen there, it's really this portion right in here, and a small sliver here is all it is. Not the remainder of all this, but really this over here is what he's looking to rezone. It's about 10.5 acres. He's wanting to rezone it to light industrial in order to operate a small-scale sawmill for production of lumber on the property. The property is surrounded pretty much with RL zoning, but you can see up the road there is a little bit of commercial zoning in this area, as well as right out in front of the property, not immediately adjacent, but pretty much just what I'd say catty corner to it. This is an existing concrete batch plant that was approved back in 2007. Under the new ordinance, it was zoned for heavy industrial, so industrial zoning is present in the area even without this right here, so there is some industrial land that is zoned presently. This is an area, this shows you the access road to the property. You can kind of see here, this is actually the access road to the ready mix facility. You can see this is the ready mix facility right here. And just to give you an idea, this is actually looking onto the property. Again, this is the Smyrna ready mix to the, I guess that'd be to the west. Looking straight onto the property, it's pretty much just covered over and treed at this point. Looking over, there are some residential structures on the property. Further down the road, there's a few more down through here. On the other side, I mean, it's just, you can tell right here, you hardly can even see through it right in this area. But the applicant is present. Staff did recommend approval of this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for staff?
I will add too, before there are any questions, that any development on property, of course, would require a site plan, similar to what we talked about at the last hearing.
For a public hearing. This time I'll declare the public hearing open for item number 14-A012. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this zoning request may do so now. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Planning Commissioners?
What, sir?
We're trying to establish that little sliver of land you're talking about that's included in this, but it wasn't the whole.
Well, yeah, this is the whole property, and it looks like the printout that was done here, it looks like it tried to print the entire tract of, tried to print the plat as the full size. If you look on that, you can kind of see there's just a little area that's actually included on the plat. It would be right about, it'd be right about in here is where that little sliver is, just basically about 50 foot here up the property and then over. Basically it'd be right here. Yeah, when we did the map for this, that plat still hasn't been recorded yet, so the property lines are still as they are. So that's why, but it'd be right in here and then over is really what you'd be looking at.
Okay, would you show me where the existing residential,
Well, there's one right here, and then there's a few back, there's several back in here.
your pointer's not working?
I'm sorry, okay. I can see it on my screen, I just
Okay,
figured
there
you
it
could
is.
see it. Yeah, is it still coming up? Okay, yeah, there's residents in here, and there's one right into here, I think there's one right here. But
then-
basically, there's 3 or 4 back in here.
And so to the far left off of Shelbyville Pike is the ready mix?
That's correct, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right, this is right here.
All right.
And where your tag is, you were talking about, that's the 50 foot from the property line on the northern side? Yeah.
Yeah, right in here. Mhm. And then the rest of this over here would all be zoned still RL.
Okay.
And all this would be what he's asking for rezoned.
And he wants to put a sawmill,
Yes, sir.
which is a whole lot of noise.
It can be, yes, sir. But again, we do have performance standards dealing with that, so if it becomes a problem, we can work with them on that.
Doug, did you have any calls on
No,
this?
sir, I haven't.
This piece of property here, it's well buffered. There was a sawmill up where the concrete batch plant is. It was there forever. Mr. Falk's sawmill. He's buying this piece of property from the gentleman that owns most of those residential homes back there, and they're all in agreement. Nobody's in opposition to this piece of property right here. And Joe Frank, he talked to Joe Frank about it, and he's in with it. And our county convenience center is just right up from it right there. So I think it's well suited for this piece of property. In fact, I've said it could almost have been grandfathered in because it's just touching where it used to be right there on this piece of property. I'll make a motion we approve it.
Motion to approve and a second. Other discussion? Vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve. Item number 8, staff reports or other business. Doug?
I don't really have anything except to say that at our next day meeting, Mr. McCrary is going to be giving a training session on another every year. And Charlotte, I'll just tell you, every year your planning commissioners are required to have 4 hours of training. You were just appointed within the last couple of months, so you get 12 months from when you're appointed and then yearly afterwards, so you're fine. But one of the recent changes to that law is that 1 hour has to be on private property rights. And so Mr. McCrary is going to do a 1 hour presentation on that. So I encourage you all to be there. Most of you have pretty much gotten your hours, but this is an extra hour that is required for that. So I would encourage you to make every effort you can to be at our next day meeting on the 27th. What's that? Yes, sir. She has to be there. Yes, sir. I think it'd be good for, just, breaking you in anyway, right? It's
Our
the
next
20th.
meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 27th, 9 a.m. in the planning office, Mez.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Any other business to come before the commission? Y'all be safe on the way home. We're adjourned.